All right, welcome back to the Go4SC2 monthly finals here, as we now find ourselves in the semifinals. As the bracket played out, we can actually just show the bracket briefly here before we get into our semi-final. In the top, Targa was able to beat Little Bo, which is a pretty sick result actually there for Targa, and he's actually going up against Rail. Rail, I actually found out, is Verdi, so Verdi has changed his name for about the 700th time. So now at least I know who on earth is actually up there, because I was surprised. I was like, Rail? Who's Rail? And now we're going to be getting into our other semi-final as we follow Hydra on his little tear and rampage, and he's going to be going up against ShoWTimE. So without further ado, let's get into game number 1 in the semi-final. The winner moves on to the grand final to compete for €300. The loser will stay here and fight in the 3rd and 4th place match. And for a little bit of cash himself, So, over on the left-hand side is our blue Protoss. It is ShoWTimE, a German resident here. He's always looked pretty fancy and nice. And actually already sending out an early probe with a pylon at the bottom. So he could have been looking for a cannon rush here. But spotting his opponent this early on, it's going to be a little bit difficult. And now, up at the top right-hand corner, it is Hydra, as we see him for the 3rd time today. This is actually one of the reasons why I really wanted to cast this cup in general, is that I wanted to see how Hydra was going to do. And there's been these tantalizing moments in game 1s of his series where I'm like, oh, geez, is he going out already? I guess he's going to be looking really good for IEM Taipei, but then is able to pull it back. So the way and dynamic in which this worked out, again, for people who are a little bit less familiar with StarCraft, is that Protoss was there was the anticipation of sending out that probe, spotting his opponent second or not having his probe spotted at all, and then throwing down a forge back at home and potentially even going for a cannon rush if the Zerg had gone for a hatchery first. Because the probe had been spotted by the Overlord that early, and thus both players knew where they had spawned, and Hydra knew that a probe was going to be on his side of the map. That prompted the spawning pool's first decision from Hydra nice and early, and as such, negated any idea of a forge opener doing any damage with cannon rush on an earlier hatchery. So that's how all of that played out in the first 2 or 3 minutes of this game. It's a bit of a mouthful, but there you go. And ShoWTimE from here on out is just going to be playing Forge, actually into Cannon and then Gateway. So not really taking any risks here against this spawning pool first opener. It's not like Hydra really needs to make any lings anyway to get aggressive against any of this. And all of it has been spotted by Hydra, so he knows exactly what's going on the other side of the map too. Likewise, the Nexus is actually going to finish up before the hatchery, which is a very, very nice little start for him there. And that probe did see the drone heading up to take that 3rd base eventually. Oh, might be a ruse, though. Might be a ruse. He's actually coming back. He must have... Oh, he was going to take that drone away, but then he put it on patrol to make sure that this probe thought it was still going to take the 3rd base. He may cancel this once this probe leaves or dies. Because of the Roach Warren that's behind this, we already mentioned Hydra was a little bit of a tricky guy, and there is the cancellation. So, I mentioned in the previous couple of casts that Hydra's a tricky guy. He can also bring tricks to the table, and this is where it's going to start. So, the way this plays out for Hydra is that Roach Warren finishes up, and generally, the way in which it lines up, it's really only going to be that one cannon unless he gets earlier intel on it. And notice how this ling here, this one, he got 1 kill. So there's no probe on the map right now to be able to spot the impending push that is about to be on the way for Hydra to hit this wall. 7 roaches already on the way. He didn't start a Zealot, so no extra little firepower and stuff to be able to deal with that. He really needs a Mothership Core to start pretty soon. Opts for the Sentry, always good to try and get force fields down to deny this, but 1 Sentry is sometimes not enough to stop this from even occurring and doing massive crippling damage. So let's see how he's going to deal with this robo facility. It's not really what he needs right now. Still doesn't know about this. Look, here is where the first roaches are, and here is where he's going to notice it. Very, very difficult to react to this as a Protoss player in time to shut this down. So Hydra's looking for a quick win here, really changing up the pace of his game from series to series. As he pushes forwards, looking to get on top of that sentry. Force field will end up throwing down. Throw Corona Boost into the gateway. Really needs out units very, very fast. Didn't even start one during all of this, though, as the cannon is going to end up falling as well. It's just this one sentry. Tries to get another sentry out as quickly as possible. Also Corona Boost into the cybernetics core. He's trying to get a mothership core out. He knows he's in a lot of trouble here. Probes come off the line, and that is going to be very, very difficult for ShoWTimE to hold off from here, as those Lings and Hydras are going to do so much damage. Despite the mothership core being out and it being able to delay a lot, it's not going to delay anywhere near as much as it needs to. GG, game number 1 goes to Hydra. So, nice little snap decisions there from Hydra, gaining game number 1. And gotta say, very, very well played out by him. The way it panned out, very, very strong. If it goes gateway into cybernetics core opener, then you do have the potential of having a mothership core out nice and early, which means it's banked up some energy, and then Photon Overcharge can really start shutting down the idea of a roach bust like that, even if it is seen quite late. But getting that probe early on, juking and jiving, making it look like the third base was going down, but it wasn't. All of these small little things added up to a very, very strong early push there for Hydra, which did end up gaining him the victory. So he's 1 game up now, and in a second we're going to get the invite into game number 2, and it's going to be on Varney Research Center again. So seeing a little bit more of this map than the other ones in the newer rotation, as I will tell these guys good luck, and then hopefully we'll get into the game very soon. I'm unsure as to whether or not Verdi versus Targa, how that's going just yet. I'll try and get an update of that after this match to see if any games have fallen in the favor of either of them. But they did start that series around the same time as this one. So, and that was a very quick game. So Verdi and Targa might still be playing out their first game. Regardless, let's get into game number 2. As you can hear, the countdown has already been begun. Huge thanks for joining me here, guys. Solo casts are a little bit of a different beast compared to me and Sean sat there and here, as we will be now loading up into game number 2 to find out if Hydra can bring more shenanigans to the table, or if ShoWTimE can steal the second game and make it 1-1. Let's get into game number 2 in this semi-final, as we have spawning up to the north. It's our blue Protoss. It is ShoWTimE. And down to the south, we have our red Zerg. It is Hydra. Hydra. All right. So there's still a lot of room for opportunity for him here. It's a little bit more difficult to do anything, say, like go for an earlier spawning pool, for example, and try and punish on this map because of the way in which the 2-base layout works and the fact that it's only this small choke to defend 2 bases. So I think it will be very rare we ever see something like a 2-base, an early pool opener against a Protoss on a map like this. I mean, they've become very rare anyway, but just pointing it out in the way this map works in particular. Unless a Protoss was going really, really cheesy, economically cheesy, I should say, and going for a Nexus first, anticipating his opponent to just be doing nothing of the like. Anyway, Hydra, for now, what is going to be his option? For now, looks like we're going to have a gateway opener here for ShoWTimE. And I do like this play. I really do like this play. But it might end up running up against a triple hatch opener, which would be kind of annoying. Ooh, didn't see that probe actually moving out. That might deter him from going for a triple hatch opener. He goes for the hatch first, and because this Overlord doesn't get over there quickly, he probably will go for a spawning pool pretty soon. I don't think he'll go for a triple hatch. Again, against a gateway opener build, he can do quite happily and get away with it. But there is going to be the spawning pool. No doubt triggered by the presence of this probe. If he hadn't have seen that, could have gone for a triple hatch opener. Now ShoWTimE's knowing that the hatchery, his first hatchery even is over here. because of the time in the spawning pool, and then checking over on the right-hand side, not seeing that there either. But this is interesting from Hydra, because placing your first hatchery on the left-hand side, and when you're at the bottom, down here, gives him a good opportunity to spread creep really, really far. Very far indeed, actually, I should say. And eventually that will play to Hydra strengths, which are, you know, he has the opportunity to be a little bit more mobile in the middle of the map, and really start running rings around his opponent, because again, he can be a very, very diverse, tricky player when it comes to these kinds of things. A little bit of combat going on down at the third base location as Hydra tries to force that from being denied, but does get that pylon down there in the end. So it's going to delay for a little bit because there weren't really too many lings there. And even the probe dancing adds to that delay. It does die. So, but lets the pylon finish, all importantly. So that's quite costly. Quite costly. All right. I'm very, very curious to see what ShoWTimE's plan's going to be. Because right now he's sat under the vision of an Overlord, and it does take a while. He sees the amount of gas coming in, of course. At least he's going to be able to take his third now as Hydra. So let's see what tech structure is going to be the option. You can't really throw it down in the with the presence of this Overlord here. Sentry is going to be the potential denier of that Overlord if it does end up trundling across somewhere. But for now, it looks like ShoWTimE's very happy with just getting a lot of sentries out with this gas. Still, with two gases like this, he will be banking up quite a bit unless he's furiously chrono boosting into these gateways, which doesn't look like that's the case right now. Extra gateway. Probe goes back into gas. Extra gateway. And 3 gates spread out like that. Very interesting. Are we going to see another gateway come down in a different location? Spread out once again. All in all, though, seeing these 2 gateways prompted speed on the way. And it is the choice of the Forge, without the Overlord being able to see that. So it's a little bit more of a longer game plan here from ShoWTimE. The Forge makes me think third base. The Forge makes me think walling in with a cannon. And using the sentries as a buffer to try and make sure that there isn't going to be any damage done there. But so in the end, this looks like it's going to be the play out here from ShoWTimE. And then Hydra, off the back of this, layer on the way, Roach Warren already down, keeping himself well and truly solidified, with the creep extending out from this natural, like we were mentioning before. It does give him a little bit more oomph with his creep going on into the earlier stages of this game. Plenty of sentries here. So at least with those sentries, he was able to bank up some energy for a hallucination. Doesn't need to have all the force fields in the world to be able to hold this ramp just yet. But 10 lings are on the way. 10 lings have started up here. And these could head over to that third base eventually, which I'm pretty sure is going to be ShoWTimE's option in just a second. 7 sentries. Where are the lings? Where are you, little lings? All right, 15. It's not really enough to be able to force a cancel, I don't think, if the sentries are in the right place at the right time. And also, he needs a good wall. What did that hallucinated Phoenix see? Layer, lots of gas there, no gas there. Lings, what are you going to be able to do? That's a lot of sentries. Should be able to deny this from really doing too much, I feel. If he really wanted to commit to some denial of this base, it would have been far more lings than that. You really need to force a ton of force fields being used by those sentries to make that few lings really useful. And hey, so he sees a Hydralist end very quickly there. This could be a very strong Ling Hydra play towards that third base even, I should say. There's 4 Overlords on the way to free up a ton of room for supply. And he could just push forward very, very strongly with a... this could almost devolve into the style that we saw a very, very long time ago, which was just like a very, very quick Roach Hydra max out. Because think of how this base is laid out. It's a very, very big concave to cover as a Protoss that is difficult to defend without some good splash damage as well as area control. And trying to control the area here, very, very difficult. So... Overseer poked him, saw that the Chrono Boost was going into that Blink play, as well as +2 weapons, or at least something on the Forge. There is a gold base down to the bottom right-hand corner here for Hydra that's going to cause a few problems for ShoWTimE, because he can't really do much to deny that. He doesn't have any kind of mobile utility and tool for harass to go down there and do something. So he sees it with the Hallucinated Phoenix, but I mean, what can he really do there? Not a whole lot. So, Ling's poised on the left-hand side to eventually rendezvous with Roaches and Hydras, which the Hallucinated Phoenix did see quite a few Hydras popping out there. He's got to be kind of careful. He really needs to buy time for the Robotics Bay to come out so he can get some Colossi up and running. So we have a Contaminate on Blink as well. And with what I was saying before, with the potential of like trying to put on some harass down to this gold base because he would really, really like to, that's what the Warp Prism's going to be for. He really needs to get back there and do something with this rally point all the way down to that gold base. Otherwise, the gold base is going to completely scale out of control and there's not going to be too much room for him. But if he moves out anywhere at this point, the army supply is getting very, very vast here for Hydra with what we were mentioning before, with the potential good, very strong concave in this area to do big damage at this location. So he's going to wait for these 12 more Roaches and then probably just go because he's almost maxed out. Will he have Colossus out in time? I don't know. I don't think so. Not only will he not have Colossus out in time, but also he doesn't really have too much room to have a Thermal Lance out in time. So this harassment here, down to the right-hand side, is probably going to have to do a lot. And it is actually right now. When I say it's doing a lot, it's drawing the entire army all the way back to that 4th location to defend it. Maybe even this natural, actually. And that's a very, very nice little move there. To go to the natural and bounce between those two bases is going to be really, really irritating for Hydra. But this is still a very strong army that ShoWTimE is actually moving out into the middle of the map here. He has to be careful. He does have Blink, so could Blink back, but he also has a lot of energy for Force Fields. He actually takes the engagement straight and cuts off quite a chunk of that. But at the same time, we do have the harassment going down in the natural. We're going to watch this main engagement for now, as even with the Force Fields cutting some of that off, I don't know if it was worth it. He still needs to wait and buy time to make sure he has enough AoE. But again, the Warp Prism, the MVP really here, drawing the army back once again. He's going to get this hatchery. There's not really much that army can do about this hatchery. And a great play here from ShoWTimE. Really kind of thinking this very, very well through. Again, he needed that harassment option down to this location. He got it. It not only bought him time against the army, but it also put him in a very, very good economical position against what we're seeing here from Hydra, who would have gotten very far ahead had that gold base stayed up and running for quite a while. That being said, 8 Corruptors are now going to join the fray. And this is the next wave that ShoWTimE is going to have to deal with. But I think he's more than capable. I really do. He still has a lot of energy for sentries to cordon off any kind of ground army as he moves forwards towards this gold base once again. He has +3 weapons about to finish up for those Stalkers to bring the Corruptors out of the skies to protect his Colossi. And if he gets in a lot of trouble, the Mothership Core could just recall out and he could be fine. Cancels the pylon, goes back home, doesn't want to be fighting. Mothership Core decides to sit around for a second. But in the end, ShoWTimE's playing out a good, strong game number 2. Now, Hydra is one of the Zergs for me, one of the Korean Zergs for me that notorious. Like we saw a lot of European Zergs get stuck in this, and this was the mid-game mindset of Zergs with Roach, Hydra, and Corruptor, which was actually quite a long time ago that we saw European Zergs really getting stuck in that mindset. But Hydra's one of those that can do against Protoss, and I don't think this engagement is going to go well for him at all. Great Force Fields will cut some of that off. The Corruptors are trying to get on top of those Colossi, but even still, even if they are doing, the Force Fields were good enough in that choke point to really hurt Hydra's army very, very hard. So, again, coming back to what we were saying about Hydra there, as he's stuck in this mid-game mindset of, look, I mean, what is he remaxing with? Roaches, Lings, and Corruptors. ShoWTimE, meanwhile, +3 weapons, armor on the way. He still has retained a Colossus, but Blink Stalkers in this number alone are extremely powerful. Very, very powerful, not to be underestimated. As they lay waste to the gold base, gonna end up falling back for just a little bit because he's done the damage he needs to do. He's keeping the Zerg on 3 bases worth of economy. Sure, there's a 4th base on the way on the left-hand side of the map, but it's not really up and running. There's not much to be done with it. So, And ShoWTimE's getting his 4th base on the left-hand side as well. So he's looking really, really good here in game number 2. And this is where ShoWTimE feels, I would say, most comfortable against Zergs, especially when the Zerg is a little bit apprehensive about transitioning on. But a blink forwards into the Corruptors, bringing those down before he can even get on top of the Colossus. The Colossus still reigns supreme. The Roaches on the left-hand side trying to get on top of them, but they can't bring down the AoE damage quick enough as one Colossus starts firing at a Creep Tumor. Doesn't want to be firing in that direction, but it's just too much. Hydra's army is going to get completely destroyed, and there's too much here for ShoWTimE. GG for game number 2, as ShoWTimE is able to tie up the series 1-1. So, we keep getting these 3 mappers, and I'm okay with that, as ShoWTimE played out a very, very strong game there. And yeah, Hydra got stuck in the mid game just a little bit. Not the best situation to be in at all. Again, you know, what we were saying throughout that cast was he was really gearing up for that kind of Ling, Roach, Hydra push into that 3rd base because the area is so wide for the Zerg to do damage to the Protoss there, but it didn't quite work out like that. The Warp Prism was a touch of genius, needed to happen, needed to buy himself some time, and needed, in the end, to be able to shut down that gold base, which he did. He actually got the full kill on that, which was a brilliant pickup there by ShoWTimE. But anyway, both of these players need 1 or 2 seconds before we get into Secret Spring. And that actually means that I can probably go to a short break. Very, very short break. Or not. Let's not go to a break. That was well played. So, Hydra's just got to restart his PC here during all of this. So he'll be back in just a minute. As it's going to be Secret Spring. It's going to be Secret Spring. We already saw this map before. With Straylock and Hydra both playing it out. And we saw Straylock trying to hide a base up to the top left-hand corner, which did work out quite nicely. But again, you've got to pay attention to how the map will change for the matchup that we're going to see. So if you think about the way in which you can basically split this map very, very easily, this will give ShoWTimE a lot of comfort going on into later stages of game if he needs it. Because there's only really one method to actually get through the middle of the map. And it does take a little while to actually get things going there. So got to be very, very careful about what Hydra wants to do. Because we may see Hydra, if it gets to that weird... if ShoWTimE tries to buy himself some time through shutting down rocks in the middle of the map, Hydra might bring out a surprise Mutalisk switch, which... you know, doesn't really depend on the idea of something on the ground being broken or not. So, but at the same time, Hydra's more of the guy that is going to be going Roaches and Hydras. And the 3rd base on this map for Protoss is quite difficult to take. So we'll see if that plays out in that way. But one thing about the 3rd base is that even if you do take it as Protoss, or when you do take it as Protoss, there's a window where, yes, it could be punished, but if you can get a wall on the ramp facing towards your opponent, just on the top facing towards your opponent, then that can keep you in much, much better stead. There's a big, big chunk of area in between the 2 bases where it can be difficult to defend when you've only just got a few sentries here or there, so you have to maybe split up your forces to secure that 3rd base. But if the rocks are down in the middle of the map, I mean, that really doesn't matter at all. So, we're just waiting for a second. I wonder if there's been any updates in the brackets. Rail and Targa are still playing things out, and let's just take a look at the brackets to keep you up to date with how things have played out thus far in the tournament. As you can see, Rail, aka Verdi, because again, he's changed his name again and again and again, is going up against Targa. And I'm wondering how that series is going to be playing out. I would give the edge to Targa in that, considering his recent form, especially considering he was able to beat Little Bow. 1 second. And then, obviously, we have Hydra and ShoWTimE down in the lower half of the bracket, which is currently 1-1. We're just waiting for Hydra to restart his PC. And then once he's done, we can get into this. But regardless, the winner of this moves on to the grand final. And the grand final, they're actually fighting for What are they fighting for? They're fighting for something. They're fighting for 300 euros, and the second place finisher will take away 150 euros as well. So, you know, there's some good money. There's some good money. Third and fourth place take 75 euros each. So they don't even have to play that out, actually. They just get 75 euros and all is good. They can go home. They're probably already at home, but they can go to bed. They can do what they want. So all these 4 players, at least that we're seeing in the semifinals, have at least bagged themselves 75 euros, regardless of what happens in these series. So still just waiting for Hydra to reappear here. Let's see what's going on in chat. I would love to talk to you guys in chat, but unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at things, we're on a 2-minute delay, so it's a little bit difficult for me to talk to you about things. But if you would like to tweet your questions at me, you can, at KyleLaris, and that would be lovely. But other than that, not much is going on, really. Not much is going on. Obviously, we've got Intel Extreme Masters Taipei coming up on the 27th, 28th onwards. And there's actually 5 days worth of StarCraft at Intel Extreme Masters Taipei. So if your sleep schedule lines up with the slight time difference that we're going to have there, then definitely tune in for that. It's going to be really good. There's a really sick lineup of players, actually, at the Intel Extreme Masters Taipei. Hydra being one of them, who qualified through the American qualifiers. And also, I'm trying to think who else is there. We have a lot of good players. Unfortunately, Innovation had to pull out, but he is being replaced by Classic. Maru's going to be there. Solkey's going to be there. And actually, for those two, it's their Intel Extreme Masters debut. So it's going to be pretty awesome. I'm very excited to see how Maru's going to do in an international tournament, because you never see Maru in an international tournament. I think, like, one time we saw him was the Season 2 finals in the second iteration of WCS. And he didn't do well. He was here in Cologne and he didn't do well. Let's not talk about that. I'm not going to ask him about it either. So, in fact, I can even show you just a little bit of information regarding the Intel Extreme Masters Taipei. As Classic Hydra and Polt, Classic Cass, San, 4GG, Maru, and Sen. Just a little bit of flavor as to who is going to be there, which is very, very nice during all of that. I think those were the qualified players. As Sen was the player who... What does Sen do? Sen was the qualified player from the Taiwanese region. And then obviously, as you can see, we have the open brackets. As we have 2 of those advancing forwards with people like Jack G, Impact, and Saxery in there. Obviously, Solkey looking to compete, as well as people like Hero. And then on to the second bracket, we have... obviously, another star-studded lineup of people like Don Regu in there. Snoot is even going to be playing through the open bracket. But as you could probably hear in the background, guys, we have game number 3 on the way for you. Secret Springs is going to be our map. Hydra's back from restarting his PC and no doubt grabbing himself a snack and a drink or whatever he needs to do. So, let's see. ShoWTimE looked good in game number 2. He held on well. He was able to counter very well to buy himself time to make sure he didn't lose his third base to that Roach Hydra push. And let's get into game number 3 now in this semi-final. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for waiting around here for the Go4SC2 monthly final semi-final. Game number 3, as we have spawning over on the left-hand side, it's our blue Protoss. It is ShoWTimE, tying up the series 1-1. And on the right-hand side, it's our red Zerg. It is Hydra. Looking to pull things out. He won a Go4SC2 before. And now we have to see if he's going to be able to win a Go4 monthly final. All right. Time to cast StarCraft. We've already done a little bit, to be fair. I've actually been casting other games as well before in the Go4 series. Cast some Guild Wars 2, which was very, very fun. Going to be casting some Heroes as well in 2015. So lots coming up. 2015, I expected was going to be a little bit less busy, but now it's more busy than ever before. So I'm loving it, though. because I am just a nerd. I'm just a gamer at heart. I love all games. So being able to cast other things as well is really fun and really entertaining. But to be fair, guys, let's be honest. StarCraft is my first love, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But for now, we have Hydra going for hatchery first. Actually being cautious, really cautious, checking around the edges of this base, making sure no sneaky probe snuck into the back all the way around here, because you can't, unless you're being really, really careful about your vision on this map, probes can do that. As a Zerg, obviously your creep isn't extending all the way to the edge of your main base, so probes can sneak around and be a bit pesky. As we see though, pylon down on over there, whilst we have gateway and gas opener. And wait, that was okay. No, that's normal gas timing. I was looking at that thinking a bit weird, but yeah, probe is on the way, and he's going to be able to actually. Oh, I thought he may sneak up there and have a look around, but all in all, I mean the Overlord already saw the probe moving out, so there's not really too much point of sneaking around here when your opponent knows that there's going to be a probe out on the map and trying to scout around. Unless, for example, the probe ended up not scouting into the main base and completely just went in a different direction, then Hydra would have known there's a probe on the map and it didn't scout his main base, and then he may go looking for it. These are the things that you need to consider when dealing with this stuff. Right. So, what do we have going on? Warp gate tech on the way. Let's note, though, that ShoWTimE with this gateway opener build was playing relatively defensively. He's put his pylon and gateway actually behind the mineral line just in case any kind of craziness was going on, and then took a nexus. So it's not a very greedy opener here by ShoWTimE. If anything were to come along, like an early pull, for example, or early lings, these might not actually go straight there. These might just start killing rocks. Then at least all of these buildings, especially this pylon, would have potentially been defended by the idea of a Zealot coming out if he just saw the aggression coming along early. And whoa! All right, Hydra. He is really scared of the idea of a proxy. So he's going to scout out every little nook and cranny of his side of the map. Notice, though, he didn't really scout there, and if there was a pylon and a 3x3 building, that could have potentially been hidden. So not being as super careful as I would like to see, but he's still being careful nonetheless. Careful nonetheless, and also over here as well. So you know what to put proxies, guys, against Hydra if you do end up fighting against him. And it's going to be a Stargate play anyway. In a proxy location! Okay, well, wasn't expecting that location. That's actually pretty sick, because it's technically on the Protoss side of the map. These lings are going to poke forward, see 2 extra gateways, get the full confirmation that it is 3 gates, but then what does he see being warped in? He could actually warp in on the low ground, couldn't he? Can't he warp in on the low ground and then go for some aggressive moves there as well? I mean, I don't think he's gonna, but... anyway, remains to be seen. Taking extra gases in the natural as well, so this is a little just poke forwards that he really isn't anticipating. We have 35 workers against 32, as the Roach Warren is on the way as well to defend against anything. He's just, you know, the Roach Warren's a really good compensation move, just in case there is a 4th gateway behind here. And, oh, well, you got found in the end, and Spore Crawlers are actually on the way instantaneously as he does spot that, so that's nice. So at least he's going to be able to deny that eventually, but he is going to lose a few drones for his troubles. Let's put this Oracle on follow as it does zap away. Doesn't want to be losing that, though, especially to a Queen. 9 kills. Really good start. So that's not too bad there for him. The Oracle wouldn't have got much more than that anyway with those Spore Crawlers now finishing up, but at least for those Zerglings, the Stargate is underpowered. So it's going to be a little bit hard for him to really do anything more with that for a little while. But, you know, Protoss generally aren't really doing too much with that unless, of course, there was going to be some kind of Mutalisk play later on. As the 3rd base has been confirmed here by ShoWTimE. And all in all, again, it's one of those maps where it is a bit harder to take third base because it's so far away. We've already mentioned it a few times during this cast. And the way in which ShoWTimE plays out this matchup is actually quite interesting because a lot of Protoss nowadays, especially a lot of Korean Protoss, are opting and favoring more two-base all-in pushes or very, very strong two-base pushes. So for ShoWTimE to have previously shown strong third base macro play is very cool. But taking a third base here is a little bit harder. I think you might even need a Void Ray, yeah. I'm not surprised by this, although it is rallied straight over to the third base. I'm not really sure that's going to do too much. I think the Void Ray as a defensive tool here to take a third base is a really good idea. And at least this Mothership Core is getting a little bit of free damage off on these Roaches, but Hydra really wants to plow through there. 5 extra Overlords on the way. Hydralisk then going down. There is an opportunity for him to try and pressure that third base because it's going to be so far away from the small gateway force that does currently reside on this map. Again, Void Rays are good. This one is looking to go for aggression, but I don't think it's gonna work out. There's actually no Spore Crawler there, and if he engages the Queen head on, he could actually kill that one, but it's up to reinforcing Queens to really shoo that away. 11 Hydras. It's gonna get sticky. It's gonna get really, really sticky. Roach and Hydra can potentially... What we might see actually here from Hydra is him taking the route down here, killing off these rocks and then pressuring on towards this location. And if we do see that... there is the opportunity for Hydra to not be detected at all. That's why the Void Ray may be heading down there now to have a look and see if those rocks are broken down. So good by ShoWTimE to anticipate the idea of that. He saw his opponent being so aggressive in the middle to bring down these rocks, so he may be kind of envisaging the idea of these rocks being brought down so he could put pressure on at that third base. That being said, though, ShoWTimE is bunkering that up nicely. He doesn't see it just yet, but now he does. And that poor little Stargate is kaput. So that's all good. No fourth base, obviously, for a while here, as Hydra's going to be gooping that up. And it's going to be a lot of Hydras, with Muscular Augments actually on the way. These Hallucinated Phoenix still having a look around and really not seeing too much other than Roach Hydra. So the thing is, though, is that I think this can be successful. There's no Colossi on the way. I don't even think there's a Robo facility. Correct me if I'm wrong. These gateways aren't even powered, and he's got a lot of money here. He needs those online, and he is now turning them on, but he sees it with the pylon. This is being broken down, and he absolutely has to engage on the top of this ramp. I don't see any other way to defend this location, and then he has to consider the idea of his opponent bouncing and positioning himself in this area and bouncing between these two locations. So this is going to be difficult for ShoWTimE, as Hydra's going to try and seize the opportunity in between these two locations, as I mentioned before. And there's really no intel on this up until the point where the Lings are actually spotted. They actually get through into the main base, and you can't actually engage there. As the Protoss, he's going to need to throw down a lot of force fields. There's not that many Roaches in this army. It's going to be just pure DPS from the Hydras to try and shut it down. But as I say, Lings are in the main base. They're trying to kill off a few workers. They got 9 already. More Lings are going to flood in at the back. And ShoWTimE is in a lot of trouble. Photon Overcharge has been activated, but let's just prompt Hydra to go over to this location. This is exactly what I was talking about with the area between these two spots. And oh dear me. So the one thing for Hydra is that if he went up the ramp, this would be a suicide mission. All of these units would eventually die, but they would get done a lot of damage. And again, no AoE damage whatsoever for ShoWTimE is making this really, really difficult for him to fight on two fronts. Still Lings flooding forwards, as these rocks are actually causing the reinforcements to take a little bit of a longer route around this map. But the Hydras, how much are they going to be able to do? That's still a lot of Blink Stalkers. A lot of Blink Stalkers. 23 of them going up against just a few Hydralists here. Should be able to shut this army down. And not only that, but he was able to keep his third base intact as well, while still keeping 60 drone probes alive. So the Hydras, all important for me during that, these rocks. Because look at how much of a distance that would have been for the reinforcements, as opposed to all the way around down to the bottom there. Very, very difficult for him to deal with. And now ShoWTimE is pretty much going to be trying the exact same thing. He has a lot of Blink Stalkers, plus 2 weapons on these guys as well. No significant tech towards any kind of Robo Bay here. So AoE isn't really a huge option for him. And for now, Chrono Boost into the gateways, looking to put on the pressure once again. Doesn't have energy for the recall, has to be careful, at least he'll get a denial on the 4th base. But this Roach Hydra army, 122 army supply, has no force fields in this Blink Stalker army. No sentries, obviously. So it's going to be relying on Blink alone. Decides to get out of there for now. Doesn't want to be engaging his opponent whilst he's on creep. And that Mothership Core dying is really, really annoying for him. If he gets in a sticky situation now, no recall. Not even a time warp to slow his opponent down or anything like that. But I don't think this is going to be the best opportunity here for him to really do too much. That Oracle actually survived during all of this, and now he sees the exact army positioning and the extent of it. This is a good concave here for ShoWTimE with those Blink Stalkers. But also, got to remember that during this, normally you would see Protoss starting +3 weapons. He hasn't started it during this time, and Vipers are now on the way. So the only way he's going to be able to engage this eventually is by pushing forwards, forcing out the blinding clouds, blinking back, waiting for another engagement. Sorry about that, Overlord. 4th base is actually on the way behind this, and a few Roaches have cut themselves off from the pack to try and do some damage over there. At least ShoWTimE's keeping him down to 3 bases, but High finished up during this. +3 weapons for these Roaches and Hydralisks is on the way. And if you're going to try and combat Roach Hydra without any AoE, you almost certainly want at least +3 weapons on these Blink Stalkers to try and deal with that. So ShoWTimE is playing a risky game here. He's playing a very, very fine game. As Hydra, again, you know, in that idea of getting stuck in the mid-game, but at least provide him a damn sight more capability here than Corruptors ever could do. Because obviously he doesn't really need Corruptors because there's no Colossi. Where. Anyway. So, lots of Stalkers. Lots and lots of Stalkers. Almost 60 Stalkers. 61 now. As he's actually going to go for this. He'll have the better concave. Needs to blink out of that middle section. Those Stalkers aren't really doing too much. Likewise on the left-hand side as well. He has to get out of there. Can't take that engagement. Pulls it back against these Hydralisks who actually go right up into the front of this army. Another Blinding Cloud on the left-hand side. But the Blink Stalkers are actually doing pretty well. It's going to be the reinforcements, though, that are going to make the difference, I think. I say that. And they're going to take a while to actually even get there. But that's still a lot of Roaches. The 4th base is probably going to be denied again. But if the Roaches can all kind of congeal into one mass ball here, I think with some Hydras and some extra Blinding Clouds, they should be able to force that away. I'm really surprised he never took the 4th base down to this bottom right-hand location, considering the point where ShoWTimE is really pressuring from this left-hand side and always shutting that down. But he's going to try and wait for some Hydras as well here. 10 on the way. He actually gets himself a Viper and blinks out. Nice pickup there by ShoWTimE. And some Roaches down to the bottom right here are denying some pylons. One over here by the potential extra 4th base, though, is very, very nicely placed for ShoWTimE to even just warp in a few Zealots and really deal with that. Roaches from +2 going to fight over here. And they will not win this engagement in the end because there are just plenty of extra Stalkers warping in for the fight. And even sacrificing their lives in the end as they get blunked on. But over here, meanwhile, ShoWTimE doesn't want any of that just yet. So, long story short, guys, ShoWTimE is on the verge of winning this game outright with just Blink Stalkers. Doing pretty well. Blink Stalkers are pretty good. Needs to turn another gate on. Actually, oh no, that's probably one that died during the previous engagement as Hydra went up there. Anyway. 7 extra Hydralisks on the way. As those numbers are really quite even, actually. That's a really good ratio of Hydralisks to Roaches. Especially if the Blinding Clouds land, and now +3 weapon starts for ShoWTimE. 21 minutes into the game. I think that was a little bit of a blunder, but regardless of that fact, he's still doing very, very well. Also, RoboBay on the way to eventually have some kind of transition out of this, and we could end up in a base trade situation because there's no Mothership Core with this army, but oh, so the vision from the Creature Room actually brought him back during all of that, and that's a lot of Zealots to just lose. 900 minerals worth of Zealots. It's not exactly the prettiest of sacrifices. And there's one Stalker here just poking away, but note that despite these roaches getting the third base, Zerg's still been on 3 bases for this entire time, guys. The entire time. And the Stalkers moving back to try and get the 4th base up and running again. This map gets a little bit weird because all the rocks have been opened up everywhere bar the middle. And I think that ShoWTimE would be benefiting from the idea of opening up the middle. Actually, no, I disagree. No, I take that back. Because it just opens up another path for Hydra to like throw a few units down to be annoying and irritating. Anyway, I've even seen actually people like cordoning off this area with like pylons and cannons and things like that. It's just crazy, crazy plays, so you just don't have those weird counterattack situations happen. But for now, it's going to be ShoWTimE who's going to be the one dancing and trying to save his 4th base. I don't know whether or not it's going to work out here, because these units are going to get in there and deny that pretty fast. Are these Stalkers going to be able to deny in time? I think you just need to get that and get out of there, Hydra. Yes, he does force the cancel, sets up a good concave to ShoWTimE to greet that army, but in the end, it's not enough. And now, finally, the 4th base for Hydra is going to be on this right-hand side. Whilst a few Stalkers move on up towards this base. Actually, he could get that hatchery. There's no energy left for transfuses there on that Queen. He's going to get this hatchery. Meanwhile, big engagement down to the south. ShoWTimE's going to retreat off that, but the hatchery ends up falling. The 3rd hatchery falls, and that was the majority of his income. Really nice little move there by ShoWTimE, playing exactly the same game that Hydra was, but he got the 4th base, he got the 3rd base, I should say, as opposed to Hydra shutting down a 4th base, which is not that as vital here. And also, there's not been any attempts at transition out of this Roach Hydra play here from Hydra, while we have behind this Colossi and High Templar entering the field. So as this game continues on, I'm favoring ShoWTimE more and more. He's doing very, very well. And he's even going to start claiming a 5th, or at least a 4th base location once again, over to the left-hand side. So, Psystorm on the way. Even High Templars, for just feedbacks alone, are very good to shut down the Vipers from really doing much at all. Double Colossus in this army. And what does he really have to his name? Does Hydra? He's got a little bit of income going once again, as that 4th base on the right-hand side that is a bit more protected considering the army positions is going to pay quite a little bit, but a few Zealots will be sent up there. He will spot that pretty early on though, so he should be able to set up some defenses. He was getting a few spine crawlers on that left-hand side actually with the extra 4th base up to the top left. But ShoWTimE is gearing up for a very, very strong push. This army has gained a lot of momentum now. And against Roach Hydra alone, those 2 Colossi are going to have a very nice time. Also, Psystorm was being Chrono Boost into. It's almost finished, so that's going to cause extra pain here to this mid-game army, which Hydra has had no transition into from out. Even that 4th base now up on the top left, and I like that because of how the angle at which he's attacking. It's going to be hard for Hydra to really do anything against that. And I really think here now, Hydra is going to have a difficult time engaging against this. The Mothership Core is quite far forward, but there's the feedback onto the one in Viper, which does force back the retreat here from Hydra. Good snipe out. Some Roaches actually managed to get the cancellation on that base. Actually, they may have even got the kill during all of that. But now, how is Hydra going to be able to compete against this army? It looks like he's going to end up going for a weird base trade scenario, but he's not bringing down those rocks as quickly as he would like to. Just the front army, size of the army, was doing the damage. And here we go, guys. It's going to be a base trade. Hydra doesn't think he can take that army straight up, so he's going to just plow on towards all of these other bases with his pretty strong army itself for base trading. But ShoWTimE has a strong force. And is he going to recall? He may recall. He's going to go for it. Where's he going? He's going over to his 3rd base, the one that has a little bit of mining left. The other 2 locations aren't as important, and Hydra's going to retreat back. But in the end, 24 workers left against 50, but the workers don't really matter if you don't have that much money. He does have some money to actually establish extra bases. And now ShoWTimE is going to try and head over to the right-hand side to kill off this base, potentially, one would think. 11 swarm hosts on the way. Hydra realizes now that probably not going to win a straight-up engagement, so buying some time and kind of slowing down the pace of the game is probably best for him here. As Enduring Locust is on the way, but it's not done just yet, so they're going to be less effective. The two Colossi were quite vulnerable during their mosey on over to this army, but no advantage was taken of that as he didn't really have too much vision of it. That Overlord actually could see them, but it's a bit difficult all in all. And the Locust now say to ShoWTimE, you better slow down, bro. As two Nexus are going to be taken behind this, realizing that it's not as easy to really push into this location. But he actually blinks forwards and gets a lot of his Stalkers killed. A few Roaches get caught on the wrong side of these force fields, but the majority of them do end up escaping. And I mean, ShoWTimE still has to be pretty careful here about engaging forwards. Those Locusts are going to cause him a really, really hard time. He drops a Storm to try and catch some of those Locusts, but actually blinking to the left-hand side with the majority of his army. A lot of the Roach Hydra actually took some good damage from the Storms there. Force fields as well to seal off a lot of it. And the pull forwards on one of those Colossus to bring them down. And now there's not much AoE left. There's only a few Storms left over. And the Locusts really being the MVPs to try and slow this down, or even just force ShoWTimE into a bad situation, have really done well. Also, these Roaches could even go to work on this left-hand side. ShoWTimE now with these two bases trying to get up and running, but his income is waning. It's going to be very difficult. 45 workers now against 24. This is the only mining base that's really doing much for Hydra, and he doesn't have many minerals to his name, so he's going to have to use these Locusts and Swarm Host very, very effectively to really keep going. As Hydra for now splitting up his army just a little bit, sending the Locusts to the mid. Roaches and Hydras over on the right-hand side, but they are warded off. ShoWTimE is very, very limited in regards to how much of an army he has. Army supply 45 to 112. He could get steamrolled at any opportunity here, but Hydra, with clutch decision-making, those 11 Swarm Hosts coming out at just the right time, is now, he has full reign and full opportunity to take this series, and it's been a rough and rocky road for Hydra throughout this tournament so far, but now the Locusts, even just a little bit of extra chip damage on these Stalkers, which is all ShoWTimE really has left, and Hydra realizes that, GG, wow, Hydra is able to take the series. ShoWTimE was looking good and almost was able to take that in the end, but Hydra pulling it out in a low economy situation. Very, very well done by him, and he moves on to the finals. And bear with me, guys, because I've got to scoot to the left just a little bit again as I'm trying to find the right tab. All right, I'm going to go back a few tabs. It's fine, I've got it. There we go, and then we press the F5 button, and then... All right, so let's take a look at the bracket and tell you exactly what's going on. Verdi, who's changed his name to Rail for some reason, is able to take out target in the top side of the bracket. And that means we have our final up and coming. It's going to be Hydra going up against Verdi in our next series. So that means here at the Go4SC2 monthly finals, we're going to go to a short break. And then when we're back, we have our final on the way. It's going to be a ZVP. It's going to be Verdi versus Hydra.